It's been said that the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you find out why. Welcome to the second day, a special mini season of Willing to Win. 5 interrelated shows, all focused on helping you, your family, and friends begin doing things you've always wanted to do and keep the momentum going long after you start. There is nothing to buy. No new age gimmicks. No one will ask you to chant or walk on hot coals. Just hard science and hard work. All things you can do today for free. Join us as we pay it forward with Willing to Win second day. I'm Dr. Jeff Kaplan, and for over 30 years I've traveled the globe from Dubai to Moscow and Johannesburg, from Singapore to Shanghai and Istanbul. I've studied the world's best businesses and the people that run them. But something is very different now. From the boardroom to the break room, there's a growing realization that our relationship with work is broken. But it's not too late. You still have a choice. Hold on to the past and struggle to survive, or join the willing, change, and thrive in the world of tomorrow that's already arrived. So if you're willing to think different, willing to work different, willing to change at the speed of now, then you're willing to win. Welcome to Willing to Win. I'm Jeff Kaplan.
And I'm Tara Thomas Getman. We're so glad that you're a part of this mini season, 5 episodes that will help you head into the new year, actually with 5 simple steps that can change your life. And that may sound cheesy, but it's true.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the power to change your life is within you. You knew that before you ever started watching the show, because you do something differently. So I decide to go back to college or lose weight or take up a new hobby, and your life changes as a result. So we knew we had that power, but what we're offering are a set of tools that you can use in conjunction. If you watch all 5 or listen to all 5 episodes, you'll be able to put these together and really give yourself the basis for action in going from your ideal idea of what your future is to actually making progress toward that, which is so exciting.
It is, and these are not just the typical New Year's resolutions that you're maybe applying for a couple weeks and then drop off. These are 5 strategies that you can apply now and moving forward to really change the trajectory of not just your career, but that work-life balance that we now know is front and center and so critical because of what the pandemic changed in our priorities in many cases. So step 1 we talked about is know you matter. And Jeff really is guiding us through a process of writing 1 paragraph that explains and really defines clearly on paper, what is it that you want? What are those goals and aspirations that you need to really own and put pen to paper to acknowledge?
And I will tell you, the one thing that's very different about that process, especially if you take our advice and you do multiple versions of it, right? Don't just go with that first version. Ask yourself better questions. Become more specific in what you do. The beauty of that is, unlike a New Year's resolution where you're saying, I want to do this one thing completely out of context, right? So I want to lose weight, but then you actually want to eat that, that bar or that dessert, and you want that more at that moment than losing weight. But in the context of things, if there was a bigger reason that you were doing that and it was attached to this whole vision of how you see yourself, then the chances are you're going to be making better decisions along the way, and you're not going to lose steam on following through on those ideas.
That's a great point. And once you know your value and you identify what it is you truly want, people are going to help make that happen. So the second step, people plan, really coming up with Jeff's suggestion, which I love, the 10 people who are in our midst and we have relationships with that we can leverage.
Or aspirational. We may not even know them, right? Who are the people who can make that success for us,
And that leads us to step 3, which is winner's circle, appropriately because we're willing to win. Map your success. So, okay, I know what I want. I have some people around me that can help me to really take that next step. But how do I map out a plan to actually be successful.
Right. So if you think about it, right, if you've ever heard somebody talk about their success, the stories are very similar. You start in one place, you end up in another, it's almost a surprise, and there's this moment where everything changes. For me, it was an introduction from somebody I knew back in graduate school that introduced me to a person who became my business partner and allowed me to be in this business, which was amazing. And it came from someone, that introduction came from somebody I never would have imagined. That's the common story. So that's the serendipitous story. That's when somebody gets the call, on the last day when they need money or the business is going to close. That's when, somebody, gives you an introduction to somebody else, and all of a sudden you went from doing this one thing to doing the thing of your dreams. Over and over again, we hear that. So if that's serendipity, that's the world sort of reaching out and helping us along, right? Can we take that serendipity, which is by chance, and make it purposeful, right? Really drive that. That's where the people plan comes in. People plan, we ask, who are these 10 people that could help me achieve this goal, whether I know them or not? I may not even know their name, right? But now you're going to see that once you've got that list going, it's going to become a habit. And you're going to start saying, oh, well, if I can have a relationship here and a relationship there, hopefully you've made a spreadsheet or you've written a list out and you begin trying to make these relationships. You're going to see that that's going to blossom. It gets bigger and bigger. I know you've got a huge following on social media in the several thousands. I've got the same kind of thing. Very difficult to manage that number of people and to let each person know that they are uniquely important to you. So there's certain levels and ways you're not going to have the same level of engagement with each. But there also is going to be a group that will rise the other way. They will start to work with you, and they just seem to show up again and again and again every time you do things, because they're the people that are really helping you generate value and sharing value, and really they start to become more like a personal board of directors. We call it the winner's circle.
I love it. And we have to mention it's reminiscent of a very popular classic movie, Meet the Fockers.
Hey, what did you say? It's a family show.
That's right. Yes. You got it. It is a circle of sorts. Remember the circle of
circle
trust.
Of trust. Yeah, same sort of thing. Who are the people that you're going to bring in to that circle of trust and really develop it?
With the knowledge you've been given, you are now on the inside of what I like to call the Burns family circle of trust. See, if I can't trust you, Greg, then I have no choice but to put you right back outside the circle. And once you're out, you're out. There's no coming back.
Well, I would definitely like to stay inside the circle.
I love that movie. It never gets old. But in all seriousness, mentoring is really important to have in terms of how it helps us populate the winner circle, those individuals that we have a connection with. So when you talk about mapping your success, you actually have an acronym, MAPS, that you've applied to help students in the past in your work. Talk about how it works.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say, I know the world does not need another acronym, but it will help you remember the kinds of people you should be thinking about as you build your winner circle. And your winner circle are a group of people that are closely related, that get together and share their strategies and get feedback from other people in real time. So it's hugely valuable. If you were to say that, like, there's A, B, and a C list, right? With the A being the most important, the closest people that you have to you, B and C, right? This is definitely, your personal A list. And the acronym MAP stands for the kinds of people that you want to populate that winner circle. The M is really two M's, stands for mentor or mentee. So you always want to have a mentor, somebody that's done whatever it is you're trying to do, that's been there before you. Why make the same mistakes they did? They can easily, through their experience, guide you through places that would be pitfalls, places that you could fail or stumble, right? But at the same token, you should always be teaching someone else. You should always have a mentee in your group. The reason is, as we share with others what it is that we believe or what we've learned, it actually galvanizes inside ourselves and it makes it that much stronger. So you may think it's giving back, and it is. We're helping someone be successful, but by the same token, it's really a payoff to you. Additionally, you've got to remember that you want to always be thinking about who are the aspirational people that I'd like to bring to my winner circle, right? Wouldn't it be great right? If Maya Angelou suddenly showed up on Tuesday, or my dream of meeting Doris Kearns Goodwin or Margaret Watley, the great leadership writer, I would absolutely love them to be in my winner's circle, because I would take anything that they said as advice absolutely to heart, because I believe so much in their work and their voice, right? So we've got mentors and mentees, aspirational folks, and then we need peers, people that are doing the same things we are, because a lot of times the only way that you can really get a feel for where you're at is to see how somebody else is struggling with the same thing, and draw that strength, help each other through it. And then finally, you need one sponsor, and this is the only one that we sort of suggest you limit to one. This is somebody, unlike a mentor who's willing to guide you, a sponsor is active, right? They're developing a plan for you. They're holding you accountable. They're someone that has absolutely positively been there and knows what it takes to get there, and has invested enough in you to be your coach, right? To be your sponsor. If you created a winner's circle like that, the serendipity that is always in these great success stories, overnight successes that took 30 years, when one thing happened and all of a sudden it all blew up in a great way, right? And you take that serendipity and turn it into a product of, being purposeful. It's a product that comes out from constantly, developing and nurturing these relationships to produce success for yourself and your family, and back to the rest of the circle as well.
The thing that's really meaningful about that is this applies to anybody. So no matter your station, your circumstance, where you're from, we can all apply these concepts to not just chase our dreams, but realize them. One of our friends, who happens to be a magazine publisher, started with her winner's circle to leverage what was a journalism career into now having a successful magazine that's celebrating its 5-year anniversary, the Soultown. She's now splitting her time between the Midwest and Los Angeles, where she's also been mentoring students in the tech industry. Let's hear from Cherie Kabba. Tell us a little bit about your work and how you came to be somebody that felt that being a mentor to young people was a priority in your life.
As a former staff member of a local newspaper, we were prompted to volunteer through United Way at a local nonprofit organization, and I fell in love with the kids. I completed my graduate degree while I was employed there, and traveled to West Africa and met more young people playing on the Atlantic Ocean. And when I asked them, what do you guys want to do when you graduate from high school, when you move on, they all wanted to study technology in the United States. So I decided that I would fast track myself to acquiring or earning a master's degree in information systems. So by the time those young people came to the States, I could potentially be their instructor. I was able to call up my liaison manager and just ask him, hey, are there any other openings in the network? And he said, we have several in the Bay Area, move to California. So I ended up leaving Tucson and headed to South San Francisco, where I then served inside of a Boys and Girls Club as a computer clubhouse coordinator. And then from there moved on to East Palo Alto, and now I'm in Redwood City, all within the Bay Area. They're very densely populated, so there's more clubhouses in those areas, and the purpose or the mission of it is pretty much to level the playing field with technology. We meet the young people at their level of creativity. They can come in the clubhouse and know nothing about technology, and we can bring them up to speed through DIY projects, state-of-the-art software, different project-based learning efforts. Or they can come in there and they know a lot about technology, and then we can enhance their skills. I started in Arizona, where we were located 90 miles from the Nogales border. All of my young people were Mexican or of Latino descent. And that's not an issue with me. I believe kids are the same no matter where you go. The issue becomes the language barrier if I don't speak their language and they don't understand mine. So because I'm a spoken word artist, I've learned that music and rhythm and rhyme has always attracted all kids, and we connect through music, and through music, I then get them involved with technology. I've never recruited a young person into a tech program using technology. I've always recruited them with rhythm and rhyme. And they seem to be very excited about how many words I know and how I can rhyme so many words. And it's worked. It worked in Arizona. It worked when I came here to California. It worked when I was there in Iowa. It's just a very unique but traditional way, depending on the culture and where you come from. We've kind of been doing this in the African American culture since the beginning of time. We could take it all the way back to the griots in West Africa, but it doesn't quite gel in the traditional school system. So that's why I chose to do after school, to be an after school educator, because I don't necessarily have to follow the curriculum and guidelines that's necessary in the traditional educational system.
That's great. Thank you for explaining that. Let's talk about your peers in your career pursuit. So from being a journalist to now a magazine publisher, and then obviously leading these after-school technology programs, what is it about our working world that requires mentors? Because when we think about non-traditional careers and trying to break into those opportunities, people always talk about leveraging relationships or who you know to be the factor that can be the opportunity or at least give you that foot in the door. So can you talk a little bit about mentoring and what you've experienced, good and bad, in your career journey?
Well, the bad is going to come along with the good, but back when I was just a community college student at Hawkeye in Waterloo, Iowa, I participated in these study circles for the city of Waterloo with Jim Day, who's a speech pathologist. I remember Saul Shapiro was there, a bunch of community members of different ethnic backgrounds. And we were in this study circles, and a topic came up. And I don't remember exactly what prompted the topic, but I happened to ask the group, well, how many of you guys saw Roots? You know, everybody chimed in, shared their experience or whatever. And I shared with them the first time I had ever saw Roots was when I was 7 years old. That was the first time it had ever, came on TV. And up until then, at least in my community, at least in my family, I'll say, the tracing your history back to West Africa was almost non-existent. So it was natural for my family, for me, to latch on to Alex Haley roots. It made sense, but it made me very resentful towards white people, towards the oppressors. So in the study circles, I bring that up. We all have this discussion. Everybody shares because everybody knows when the first time, they saw Roots. And then Saul Shapiro, who I didn't realize was the editor of the Waterloo Courier at the time, he says, well, let me ask you a question. Have you watched Schindler's List? And I was like, no. And he said, well, that's my story because he is Jewish. And I knew of the Diary of Anne Frank and I knew of the Holocaust, but I never knew a person that could connect to it in the same way that I thought or that I was connecting with Roots. So we would meet weekly. So I made it my business that night to find Schindler's List and watch it. And you're talking about equal impact, Tara, when it comes to heartache and pain. It didn't matter to me what color the people were. It didn't matter to me, where they came from. The heartache and pain is very equal. So when I returned back to study circles and just began to, open up and share my experiences, we decided, Jim Day, Saul Shapiro, all of us, that this is where we could find some common ground. Unfortunately, it was through heartache and pain, but it worked. And so I remember after ending 6 or 7 weeks with study circles, Saul told me, Cherie, when you graduate, if you're looking for a job, I'll hire you. And I kind of, snubbed it off, no big deal, whatever. At the time, I was a manager of the Minuteman Press in Cedar Falls at a print company. I was thriving, learning graphic design. I was in a professional atmosphere doing my thing. And I graduated and I got this email from Jim Potter, who, rest his soul, is now gone, was a editor at the Waterloo Courier. And he says, hey, you should make Saul Shapiro put his money where his mouth is. He said he was going to hire you. I know you graduated because I saw it in the Courier. You should apply. I applied. and went through all the formalities, all the protocols they had me do, and he hired me. And I worked there for 7 years. He was the greatest mentor ever. His mom marched with Dr. King. We had some really deep conversations. I still see him as a mentor as we talk about peer mentors in the workplace, for professional mentors. And I really love the 7 years that I spent working with him at the Courier. Equally now, I have a CEO, Peter Fortenbaugh. We're like about the same age. He's from the Jersey Shore, and I'm from here. I just completed a digital project talking about the differences, but for whatever reason, we gel with one another. He comes from a really affluent background. I was born in poverty, but I'm his technology director at the Boys and Girls Club here, and we just really click. I really enjoy working with him. So to your point, it's more about finding common ground, even if it's through pain. You can connect with people. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter what they have or what they look like. But I think the truth is when people are honest about it. I think that often there is a misconception that we have to put on a fake face for our colleagues and coworkers that don't look like us because we don't come from the same place. And you don't have to. You just have to be you.
Thank you for sharing that unique story that led to that job opportunity for you. And that speaks directly to my next question. The difference between a mentor and a sponsor. We talk about a sponsor being somebody who's willing to not just act as a resource or a guide. They're willing to put their social capital, their resources behind that individual and back them on a level that's all back to you. Why is that distinction important? Because anyone can talk to, any young or impoverished child and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I have going on. But do you truly commit the resources and the opportunity beyond talking to make it happen for that person who may have never been connected to that opportunity based on, their individual opportunity and experience?
I think, Tara, and hopefully I'm not offending anyone when I say this, but I think something happens at midnight on your 50th birthday. When you turn 50, I think something happens. I think you realize that you've lived half a century and that you've proven yourself for 50 years. And now it's time to pay it forward and honestly nurture and give back. You've learned a lifetime of things in those 50 years, and God willing, you're still alive. I think something happens, and then those people decide, I know who to help and I know how to help them. And it happened to me when I turned 50. It happened as I was on the receiving end of so many people, Mickey Johnson, the late Walter Reed, the Saul Shapiro. There's so many people that I can name, that Benny Walker, that came in my life, and I knew that they were over 50. Even the former state representative, Deb Berry, and they began to pour all of their wisdom into me. And the sponsorship doesn't necessarily come across as dollars. It's more about the network and the wisdom, and then what you do with it once you have it to position yourself for your 50th birthday at midnight so that you can then pay it forward to someone else and then keep the tradition going.
So Cherie is a great example of somebody who took a winner's circle and made it a tangible project for her, in this case, becoming a magazine publisher.
Well, you know what? It's a great example. And, over and over again, when you hear stories of success, you hear just exactly that, right? It's all about relationships. It's all about creating that big break. But I will tell you, there is a reason why the winner's circle especially, and this would be meeting regularly, sharing what your strategy is, what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are, what you're out there doing, and getting people to give you feedback. Because the thing you've got to really watch out for is the liar. Because there's a liar in your life, Tara. I don't know if you know it. There is a liar in your life. Well, this liar, it lies to you more than anyone who's ever lied to you. So I will say, beware out there in the world for the liar. You will see this liar every day in your mirror. right?
Wow.
Because this liar is the one that's telling us we can't do that. That's not us. We're not good enough. That's for other people. I don't get that,
So
right?
true.
So this winner circle allows us to make sure that we shut that liar up, right? When it tells us we can't. And then when we overreach and we're out there maybe doing things that are questionable or maybe we're not prepared for yet, they also bring us back and say, whoa, slow down here. You're doing well, but you're not quite there yet, right? They're your truth posse, right? That are going to let you know that that liar in the mirror is no longer in charge of you.
Great point. What is the next step that one can take? What is an action that we can do to really grow and identify our winner circle?
So the winner circle activity is very, very simple. Just take a piece of paper, make 5 columns, and label them MMAPS, right?
Okay.
Simple. And we know that that's mentor, mentee, aspirational, peer, and sponsor. And then just write down a few candidates, then take the step, once you've gotten at least one of each, of going out and trying to build those relationships. Ask them, would they be willing to come, to your home, or maybe get on some kind of video call once a month for half hour, an hour, and just discuss what's going on in your life and sort of use each other as sounding boards to try to see if their plans make sense. And the other thing is, you want to use this opportunity to leverage each other's network. So now, if that's true, and you've got 5 members in your MAPS, winner circle, all of a sudden your network is 5 times larger than it was before you created.
Great point.
Such a smart thing to do.
I love that. So our first step is know you matter. Second step is essentially identifying that people plan. Who are the relationships and those that we aspire to have? And now the winner circle is really curating those 1,000 contacts on social media. So tell us what's coming up in steps 4 and 5.
In steps 4 and 5, next week our next episode, we'll be talking about personal brand. Okay. How do we create a personal brand and a story around that? Because what does it mean when somebody works with you? Like with me, they know that I'm going to be excited, I'm going to be enthusiastic, and the quality of my ideas, like anybody else, is up and down, but they know who I am, right? And so that's my personal brand. And so what is your personal brand? Identify that. In the last episode of the special mini season, we're going to be talking to the world's best sellers, people that have crafted their personal brand, and they are great at selling that personal brand, meaning sharing it with others in an exciting way that's inviting. Because remember, we're not asking to shift our responsibility onto somebody else. I used to share this with students, and like I would say, let me know if I can help you find a job. And I would get like emails that say, okay, I want to work in Chicago. I'm looking for $115,000 a year. Wednesday afternoon I walk my dog, so I won't be able to work then. And I'd like to be in, and they're like literally giving me their to-do list, as opposed to, hey, I'm really interested, in a career in marketing. Do you know some people I could talk to and maybe make some introductions for me and get me involved in that so I can find ways to help. And that's really what it's all about. Figuring that out. We're going to see that in World's Bestsellers.
To get more of this 5-step process and hear the rest or watch the rest of our Willing to Win mini season episodes, go to our website, willingtowin.org. That's willing2win.org. And thanks so much for joining us.
Welcome to the Circle of Trust.
Willing to Win is produced by Lift Productions. Guests on the program are not compensated, nor is their appearance representative of the Willing to Win views. Willing to Win does not necessarily endorse any people, products, or services.